There you go. Welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, we've got an interesting pick five sequence that couples the two Derby and Oaks preps this weekend at the Fairgrounds and Turfway. It's the Bayou Bluegrass pick five. And you can see the races listed here. The first leg is the New Orleans Classic, ninth race at Fairgrounds, followed up by the Bourbonet Oaks, race 11 at Turfway. The Fairgrounds Oaks, race 11 at Fairgrounds, number 3. Number 4 is the Jeff Ruby Stakes, 12th race at Turfway, and anchored finally in leg 5 by the Louisiana Derby, race 12 at the Fairgrounds. So, we'll start by taking a look at the New Orleans Classic. Now, right off the bat, we have to note that there's probably going to be quite a few scratches in this race. That's the report so far. We know about a couple of them, and I'll just note them here. You'll see Kinetic for Brad Cox. He's going to run in the Essex over at Oaklawn, and Uno Mas Bourbon is staying in Florida. Bishop's Bay for Brad Cox may scratch as well as Touch Upon a Star because he's got a Louisiana bred race on Sunday as a possible. So that's certainly going to impact what we do in this race. Now, those of you who watched my Fairgrounds Pick 5 posting know that I do think this might be the time to beat Sierra Leone. If you consider that in the past, he burned a lot of chalk, burned a lot of money as the chalk in quite a few races. Now, we know it had to do with his mechanics of his running, which they seem to have fixed in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But this is a debut at 4, and sometimes they can revert back to old habits. And the other thing is that, as we know how Chad Brown trains, he likes to train in 3s, and this is certainly not the race they're pointing Sierra Leone to. It's going to be something else down the road, like the Stephen Foster or the Whitney, something like that. So, again, this may be a time to beat him. Now, if Touch Upon a Star stays in this race, I think he's the key. And I think he severely impacts this race for quite a few in here. Touch Upon a Star's got one way to go. Gun it and go as long as you can. And he usually sets pretty crisp fractions. Now, Tarantino does as well. So I think the pace is pretty assured to be lively. I don't think Tarantino can stay with Touch Upon a Star, and frankly, I don't think any of them can. We saw in the mine shaft, the fractions that Maycock's Bay set were pretty soft, and that's a horse who can't get the distance, so he's a toss to me. He may scratch as well, by the way. So that leaves Hall of Fame and Comorabino Amoide. They're taking the blinkers off on Comorabino Amoide, so we know Hall of Fame is probably going to rate behind Touch Upon a Star. Now, my thinking is that they kind of had it easy, all of them, on the front end, those two in the mine shaft. Well, Touch Upon a Star negates any breather they're going to get on the front end. So if they're going to win this race, they're going to have to run and overtake a really nice horse who's never been out of the money his entire career. Granted, most of it is against state breds, but this is a very classy and a very talented horse. And if Sierra Leone is a little vulnerable, not cranked up all the way, I think Touch Upon a Star is a very good candidate to steal this race, and you're certainly going to get a price. Now, the more lively pace would certainly help a runner like Sierra Leone. That's true. But, if I'm looking for, we look at a specialty type of sequence, it's going to have a big handle, a big pool. Everybody's going to key on Sierra Leone, so I want to try to go the other way and beat him. And I think with a price, Touch Upon a Star, to me, merits better consideration than Hall of Fame or Comorabino Amoide. Comorabino Amoide, I don't think, he just has proven he can't quite finish. Now, taking the blinkers off is probably going to help him a little bit. But I think he's tactically going to be up against it, trying to lay a little further back against Touch Upon a Star. And Hall of Fame, LASIK's added, so certainly that's his thing. He's a much different horse with LASIK than without it. Let's see what he can do if he's really pressed to run a little more on the front end than perhaps he has been. So to me, with that type of scenario, Touch Upon a Star makes a lot of sense. San Siro is one, I think is more a candidate for underneath. He's going to be coming late. He could maybe get into second if Sierra Leone doesn't fire all the way, but I doubt it. I just don't think he's as good as some of the others here. Tentatively, we'll say Touch Upon a Star is my pick to win this, and I frankly think it's Touch Upon a Star or Sierra Leone, in my opinion. It's one of those two, so I would single one of them. If Touch Upon a Star stays in the race, I single him. If not, I single Sierra Leone. I just have a feeling that and then the other thing is if Tarantino stays and Touch Upon a Star leaves, the pace is still going to be lively. In which case, I would give Sierra Leone more of a shot there. So to me, it's a 2-horse race, and I'm going to go with Touch Upon a Star for the upset in the New Orleans Classic in the first leg of the Bayou Bluegrass Pick 5. Second leg of the Bayou Bluegrass Pick 5 is the Bourbonet Oaks, ungraded at 300,000. It's the 11th race at Turfway, running 1 1/16 on the all-weather for 3-year-old fillies. And I want to preface, if you don't play Turfway on a regular basis, this is a very mercurial track. Sometimes it can favor early speed, sometimes not. It really depends on how the track is playing that day. So I highly encourage, before putting your ticket in, watch how the track is playing, because I really think it has a lot of impact on the synthetic races, and in particular this one. The reason being is White Rocks won the Cincinnati Trophy last time with gate to wire and just blew the field away. I mean, got out to like a 10-15 length lead before they tried to they closed the gap. The cavalry came, but they were late, as they were in all those old westerns. They couldn't quite get to White Rocks. Now, being the lone front runner, it's entirely possible that White Rocks will try to do that again. However, the trainer's been quoted as saying he doesn't think she has to do that necessarily. And so, and they want her to try to settle a little bit more. Now, if that's the case, then maybe she's not necessarily a lock to go on the lead. But again, if the track is playing that way, I would anticipate White Rocks will be sent to lead. But the thing to note more than anything is I don't think she's just going to try to wing it. And if that's the case, then you bring other horses back into the mix. Most notably, the horse who finished second last time, Admit, for Claiborne Farm and Tom Drury. Tom Drury's done very well at Turfway. He usually does. I like this one's form. I think third off the layoff is poised for a big one, has been progressing nicely. And if it's a little sharper and gets a little closer than last time, which I think is the intent here, then Admit looks awful good to me, and you're getting a nice price at 9-2. Hopefully it'll stay around there. The other horses up around amongst the leaders, I'm not very confident with Resolve or Just Ruthless. Just Ruthless stayed right behind White Rocks and chased before fading and seems to do that on a regular basis. So although that last work was pretty good, I think we're probably going to get more of the same here. So we've got quite a few runners from off the pace. So certainly White Rocks can wire this field again. It's entirely possible. So we would use, but I think I just have a feeling it's going to be maybe one too many times to try to do that, especially with the quality of the field improving. Something about her finished third last time, and this is one that's moving forward as well. And I think stands every chance with a good trip. Is one to certainly consider. Now, Bless the Broken, I throw in here for a couple of reasons. First of all, she scratched out of the Fairgrounds Oaks to run here. Well, that's not a big surprise. You don't want to go against the Goliath that is Good Cheer. This one hasn't run on synthetic before, but had a career-high Brisnet figure in the slop around 2 turns, and sometimes, that may translate to a good synthetic race. That's really it more than anything else. Turfway is notorious for breeding crazy horses winning races. We see it all the time. If you play the cocktail lounge with Trust the Profits, I mean, it's just it's a crapshoot quite often. So you do want to have some prices in here. So I'm going to throw in Bless the Broken for that reason more than anything else. It's just perhaps the form will translate. This one has been competing against some good horses, but not overly confident with this one to be a real major factor in here, but I don't want to leave out. As Catch Can is going sprint to root for Jonathan Thomas, and I'm not really crazy about the two-turn pedigree, but this one has run around 2 turns before and did debut at 3 with a career-high Brisnet number, granted at a sprint, but is in good form, and I think it's 6-1 is another one, a bit of a wild card, stands a chance here. Golden Sunshine is a little more of a remote possibility, mainly because she just broke her maiden, but did so pretty impressively and with a career-high Brisnet figure. And if she can make the move into stakes company, if she can build off of that last effort, she stands a chance. I think she might need a little bit of help, but again, it's all about how the track is playing, and if it does play to later runners, I would upgrade Golden Sunshine's chances. So I like Admit to win this race. To me, is the most logical. But again, we'll see how the track's playing, and if it is speed favoring, you probably have to upgrade White Rocks' chances in the Bourbonet Oaks. Regardless, I think this is a spread race, and we want to go deep in our sequence in the Bourbonet Oaks. Leg 3 of the Bayou Bluegrass Pick 5 is the Fairgrounds Oaks, a Grade 2 11th race at the Fairgrounds, running 1 1/16 for 3-year-old fillies. And it's it's a pretty good field, but to me, it's a one-horse race. I think Good Cheer is the one to beat, and I don't see any of these really with a realistic chance to beat her. Ahava certainly is a hot horse. A lot of people were excited about after that maiden score. This is a half to Vava, so there's some pretty good quality there. We'll see. Moving up into graded stakes 2 turns for the first time, certainly a tall order. But if she can get free on the lead, and I don't know that there's a lot of real major league speed burners behind her to press really hard. Hey, if she's got enough, she's certainly one. If I was going to go against Good Cheer, that's who I would go with. Would be Ahava. Her laugh to me showed me quite a bit in the Rachel Alexandra last time. Totally blew the break, yet was able to rally nicely for second. It was interesting to me, though, in that the Silver Bullet Day, which she wired the field, she ran the same fractions as she did in the Rachel Alexandra. So take that for what it is. I mean, she had a soft lead in the Silver Bullet Day and had to come from off the pace. So at least she showed some versatility. I think she's going to have to get faster to deal with Good Cheer. But if she can stay up amongst the leaders or even get to the lead, then she's got a puncher's chance. The one thing we have to remember, Good Cheer doesn't need the race, and that's one thing that we sort of have to live with. And I think you kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't in some ways. But I just think Good Cheer's just too good here. Pardon the pun. Secret Faith, I think, is likely going to scratch out of this race, but she's pretty interesting. I wonder at this quality level if 2 turns is going to be too much for her. I think she can get it at the state bred level, but here I think she's probably going to be hard pressed to stay up. But she probably would be a pace factor, and that would favor Good Cheer if she stays in the race. Girl Math is one moving from synthetic to dirt. As you guys know, I love that angle, especially when they come from Turfway. And I didn't think she ran too badly in the Cincinnati Trophy, who kind of was getting her stride late, a little late to get going there. But I did think it demonstrated her form isn't bad. And, at a price, I would consider her more for an underneath threat in this race. We know Bless the Broken's going to run in the Bourbonet Oaks, so she's a scratch. Quick Kick, I can't deny I've never really been a huge fan of this horse, but and I think, first off the bench, she didn't run badly. Would certainly have to build off of that. But to me, maybe more of a one-turn horse. But, she does have quality. I think she's going to be a bit of an underlay here. But one, I think you pick for under only. I can't see her beating Good Cheer because they're both going to be coming from off the pace, and Good Cheer is just a better horse. So, short discussion. To me, Good Cheer, an easy single in the Fairgrounds Oaks. Next, we have the Jeff Ruby Stakes. It's a Grade 3, 12th race at Turfway, running 1 1/8 on the all-weather for the 3-year-olds. And I'll just reiterate once more, take a look, watch the track early, see how it's playing prior to making your selections. But interestingly enough to me, this is one that, regardless of how the track's playing, I think the shape is well defined. And it's basically because of the presence of Innovator. Innovator's got one way to go, on the lead. Now, it's been hit or miss for D. Wayne Lucas, the coach. His horses, the 3-year-olds tend to run that way. This one's never been on synthetic. But basically has, it gets on the lead and goes. Hasn't been good enough to see it through all the way. But I think the role of Innovator here is to soften up a lot of the horses who did really well in the Battaglia up on the front end where the pace was soft. Charlie's to Blame is one coming from turf and has won on the front end, but has done so with pretty soft fractions. And so I think having to chase Innovator really impacts Charlie's to Blame's chances. California Burrito, same thing. I mean, it's been pretty soft all the way along. And I think this horse has some quality, but I just, I thought it was just a little too easy last time to me. And I think the presence of Innovator softens up. And I just like others better. Flying Mohawk, to me, is pretty interesting. This one had a pretty impressive effort on the turf. Moving to synthetic shouldn't be a problem, and looks to me like one who's in really good form right now, and at 15-1 I think offers some really good value in a race that's chock full of it, without a doubt. But and this one's one on the front end, one coming from behind, very versatile. I think can do whatever is necessary given the shape of the race. So Flying Mohawk is on my radar here. Baby Max has been a very quality horse at Turfway. And again, couldn't quite get to California Burrito in the last one, which I think is a bit of a knock to some extent. But coming from off the pace, I think it probably gives a little better shot than California Burrito. So I think is one that you can use, but I don't necessarily like to win. Maximum Promise is on a lot of people's minds right now for Kenny McPeak. And you watch that last race, and he had just way too much to do late. Did get it going, and has demonstrated some quality in the past. But I don't know. To me, that was it may have been jockey error not to have him rather more forwardly placed or more engaged. I think this horse can run that way. And perhaps better might be expected, but I just kind of get a feeling, as you do with the Kenny McPeaks, I mean, they're really hit or miss too, and sometimes they run well, sometimes not. And for that reason, I just want to look elsewhere than Maximum Promise. I think you could use, and you want to put her on him. I don't know why I keep saying her, but you want to put him on your sequence. I understand, but I just didn't see enough there to get real excited about, for me anyway. Just a personal decision. He's Not Joking is my pick to win. This horse has good synthetic form. Ran a monster the last time he went on it. Has had 2 dirt efforts that aren't anything to write home about in the Derby prep. So they took their shot. They said, well, we've got a horse, let's see what he can do. And it didn't work out. But now he's back on a surface that's much more favorable to him, ran a number that's higher than anybody else in this field, and you're getting 15-1 in a race. I think you absolutely have to have a price. So I really like He's Not Joking in here, and is my pick for the upset to win. Giacoso is a bit of a wild card, I will say. I did like this horse at 2. This horse has been pretty good on the turf, and was okay in the Kentucky Jockey Club at 38-1. I really liked him in that race, and I thought he had a chance, but flattened out and really hasn't built on it. So perhaps moving back to a surface that maybe is more agreeable will help this horse, but it's going to have to prove it to me. Again, one you want to throw in there at a price, I don't blame you, but I'm going to go elsewhere for economy's sake on the ticket. Poster, I think, is one that this should meet right between the eyes, coming from off the pace, where I think the pace is going to be pretty quick, has shown quality, and it has good turf form, so I think moving to synthetic makes a lot of sense here. And so Poster, to me, coming off of that Sam F. Davis, where it got up for a third, wasn't going to get to Owen Almighty or John Hancock, but that race is, what you saw with Owen Almighty, maybe has come back a little better than we thought. We'll see what John Hancock does in the Louisiana Derby. So Poster, to me, is one of the ones in here, and I think is a very good spot for. Finally, the last horse we'll talk about is Final Gambit. Is coming from maidens into stakes company, always a bit of a red flag, and I don't believe is run on synthetic, but has demonstrated some really good form on turf, and I did really like the acceleration I saw in the last race. So if he can switch to the surface, move up, he's got a shot for Brad Cox. But got to say it again, Brad Cox 3-year-olds haven't been so hot this year, save for John Hancock. So Final Gambit maybe can redeem him a little bit, but at 6-1, I think he's a bit of an underlay. So we're going to go for the upset here with He's Not Joking in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Final leg is the Louisiana Derby. It's a Grade 2, 12th race on the card at Fairgrounds. The anchor, thank you Fairgrounds for not throwing in a getaway race. Running 1 mile and 3/16 for the 3-year-olds. And it's the longest distance any of them have run. Certainly John Hancock is the one that, looks like the horse to beat here. But I got some reservations. I think this is the time you try to beat this horse. First of all, it's the third start. The longest distance this one is run. And I think this one doesn't really have a lot of stamina underneath in the pedigree. And, having to deal with Yinzer and Furio, who both want to get up on the lead, going to have a lot tougher time than he did in the Sam F. Davis, where he was able to basically control things on the rail, set soft fractions. And, he did show a lot of grit for sure in dealing with Owen Almighty and turning him away in the stretch. But that was an awful tough race. I know Owen Almighty came back and ran well. But again, he was on a speed favoring track at a shorter distance. And so to me, John Hancock is a bet against. Now, for the purposes of the sequence, I will say I would likely use him as a saver, because if we do get this far and don't have him and he wins, keep the sharp objects away from me. So I would certainly use him as a saver, but I think you want to try to beat him. I like what I saw from Caldera in the Sunland Derby. Yes, I know Getaway Car came back and ran a dud in the Virginia Derby, but let's also remember that Getaway Car was in much better form in the Sunland Derby. And, in the Virginia Derby, I don't think he was slated to run in it. He was kind of thrown in when Gaming backed out. And his work tab did indicate that he wasn't tuned up like a Baffert normally is. They were kind of maintenance works. So I think we can discount the thought that Caldera perhaps isn't as good. The reason being the distance is more, this is a horse who wants more ground, I think. Pedigree indicates it. Secondly, he's got that progression that you'd like to see. He's getting better with every race. As the race levels, the class of the races are getting better, he's getting better. And those are always things that you want to see. I think the coach sees Caldera as his best Derby horse, and I think that's why he's here. So to me, I'm going to take Caldera to win, mainly because you look at Build, and Build would be pretty logical here, but let's also note the last three races that he has been finishing progressively further back. I'm not so sure if it's more the class of the race is impacting that, or maybe he doesn't want the distance. I'm not overly certain of either, but it isn't. To me, it's discouraging to see that moving forward towards the Derby. Now, I believe they're putting the blinkers on. Maybe that'll get him a little more focused. But to me, he's a cut below the best horses. We know that about him. He is a nice horse. I think he can get into the money, but I don't see him as a win candidate here. Vassimo, I didn't think ran badly in his last race. He seemed to have lost focus, or, he was up amongst the leaders, and then he fell back, but he did re-rally. And once they got him to the outside, he closed pretty well. And I thought that spoke to his quality, and certainly that would, to me, make him eligible to move forward here. I think he'll like the distance. And at 12-1, I think he's a great price in a race where I think value is imperative because of the vulnerability of John Hancock and Built. So, to me, Vassimo is a very good candidate to win. Now, Chunk of Gold, those of you who follow me know I tipped him out at 43-1 in the Risen Star. And moving from synthetic to dirt, always a great angle, particularly coming from Turfway. But I think this horse isn't a suck-up closer. First of all, if you go back and watch the Risen Star, you'll note he was not all the way at the back. He also made his move up around the turn because he was mid-pack. And I thought he closed really well. Now, he did have the rail. That's true. But this is a horse I think is moving forward, and I think he's got the pedigree to handle the mile and 3/16, and at 8-1, he's an excellent price, not as good a price as we'd like. And he is a bit of a wise guy horse. That's true. I'm not going to deny that. But I do think this horse is headed in the right direction, and he merits consideration in what is, I consider, to be a pretty wide open race. Tistastic, he's just going to keep running. So more distance is definitely going to help him, but he doesn't seem to have that finishing kick that you want to see. He seems like a horse, the longer the better, for sure. But I would think he's a horse you kind of want at like a mile and a half instead of a mile and 3/16. But he just hasn't shown me enough. And he's not moving forward. He's not progressing. And that's really the big knock to me on him. Instant Replay, I'm just very skeptical about that last race because it was done with Lasix and it was done with when his prior efforts hadn't been terribly good, especially against some of the better horses on the Derby Trail like Sandman. So now he did come from off the pace, and he did close pretty well. Do it again without Lasix. That's what I want to see more than anything, and I just think he's a bit of an underlay at 6-1. And again, the Brad Cox 3-year-old's not doing so great this year, so to me, he's an underlay, and I just don't want to deal with him, so I'm going to leave him off. Hypnus, had a pretty impressive maiden with Lasix, came off of it, and in the Rebel, and I think he ran all right. I thought he ran pretty well, did have a little bit of traffic, and he could potentially move forward in this race. I suppose he could. But again, the fickleness of the Kenny McPeak horses, I just have, I have my doubts about him, and I just have to see another one with him. So to me, I'm going to go against Hypnus. I think we've got others that rate a better chance, particularly Vassimo, with better odds. Hopefully we'll keep it around 12-1. So looking at our ticket, we'll see in the New Orleans Classic again. I'm going to go with Touch Upon a Star if he runs. If he does not, I'm going with Sierra Leone as a single. Either way, in that race, it's a single to me. The Bourbonet Oaks, I think, is absolutely a spread race at Turfway, without a doubt. I do think Innovator is going to have a very big impact on this race and the pace. And so We're going to spread for sure. Or not innovate. I apologize. That's the Jeff Ruby. What I mean, White Rocks, I don't think is going to have it as easy as he did last time. And I think the indication is they're not going to try to do that again. They're going to try to get him to relax a little bit more. And if that's the case, I like Admit as a much better possibility because he should be more forwardly engaged. But we will spread. I think it's a spread race, so we'll go 2, 3, 7, 8, and 11. We're going to single Good Cheer and not mess around in the Fairgrounds Oaks. I just think she's the one to beat and has proven as such, and I think she stays undefeated. Jeff Ruby Stakes, I'm going to go with the upset with the 12. I think moving back to synthetic has proven is his preferred surface, and ran a figure better than anybody else in the field at 15-1. I think it's a race that you definitely could go deeper than 3, but I'm going to keep it with the 5, 8, and 12. And then finally, the Louisiana Derby. Yes, we're going to throw John Hancock on there. I would throw him out playing this race vertically, but for the sequence, I'll throw him in as a saver. So we'll use 1, 2, 5, and 7 with Caldera, my pick to win. So with the double single, we can spread a little more comfortably and still end up with a $60 ticket on a $1 base, and I think we got a really good shot because we do have in the races where I think you have to spread, we're going to have plenty of possibilities there, and with some prices. So it stands to reason we're probably going to get a pretty good return if we can get it home. So that's the Bayou Bluegrass Pick 5. I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy. I wish you the best of luck as always. Certainly, if you do like content like this, please like and subscribe. And again, thank you very much for all the recent support we've got. Again, really love the way this community continues to grow. So thank you very much. Thanks to all of you who have dropped in comments. I do appreciate it. So we are going to continue along on the Derby Trail. We've got a big weekend next weekend, and we'll certainly have a race replay analysis of the Jeff Ruby as well as the Louisiana Derby, and we'll have our Derby Top 20, so you'll have those coming up next week. So plenty more content coming from Right at the Wire, so stay tuned. That's it from here. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.